Hi everyone, my name is Kate and I'm back for another Animal Encounters this week. So this week we have Charlie, who is our Spotted Leopard Gecko. So I have Charlie right here with me. I have him in this container and can take him out in a minute, but before I do that, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about him. So Charlie came to live with us at the Science Center about 2 years ago. Charlie is a Spotted Leopard Gecko. So you can see, and you'll be able to see in a minute, he is yellow with a black spot, so he kind of looks like a leopard might look. Like I said, he came to live with us at the Science Center about 2 years ago, and he was 2 years old when he came to live with us. So he is about 4 years old now. So he's a little bit nervous. Because he's so young, he's not as used to being handled as our other gecko that we used to have that many of you probably knew. So I'm going to be taking him out and probably putting him back and taking him out, just so that we keep him nice and calm. But I can always hold him up so you can ask questions this way too. So for now I'm going to take him out. Like I said, his name is Charlie and he is a Spotted Leopard Gecko. Do they make any noises? That's a good question. I've never heard a leopard gecko make any noise, but I'm assuming they would probably be able to make noise, but I've never heard them. Like turtles can hiss and stuff, but I've never heard Charlie make a noise. So let me get him out so you can get a close-up of him. So here's Charlie. He's a little nervous. So like I said, Charlie's about 4 years old, so he's not as used to being handled as some of our other animals, so I might take him out and put him back a few times so that he can stay nice and calm and relaxed because he's a little nervous. As you can see, he's a leopard gecko. You can see he's yellow with these black brownish marks, and that's what they call him, a leopard gecko. They're also called the common gecko. Whoop. So, whoop, he's nervous. There we go. Okay. So the cool thing about geckos is that they have little noses. You can see on the front of him he's got a tiny little nose, but he's licking me. Geckos have what is called a Jacobson organ, which means that they use their sense of taste as their smell as well. Humans have the Jacobson organ, but we are less likely, like we don't use ours. Our bodies just don't do it, but geckos do. As you can also see with him, he has this nice long tail back here, and his tail is designed to look like the same shape as his head. So if somebody attacked him and it was actually his tail instead of his head, he can actually lose his tail. His tail can fall off and he can grow a brand new tail. Yeah, hi Charlie, how are you? Let's see, how fast do they run? That's a really good question. So I had to look that up because somebody asked me that earlier. Oh, look at you mugging for the camera, Charlie. So geckos, certain species of geckos can run on water, actually, and can run very, very fast. Charlie is not one of those species, but those species can actually run 1 meter per second on water. Charlie moves pretty fast because he has to be able to catch crickets. So Charlie's main diet consists of crickets and mealworms. He loves his mealworms. And so he has to go pretty fast because you know how fast crickets are. Crickets are super fast. They bounce really quickly. So he has to go pretty quickly so that he can catch them. When was Charlie born? I don't know when Charlie was born. That's a really good question, Riley. But he did come to the Science Center in March of 2018. And in March of 2018, he was about 2 years old. So we know that now, in March of 2020, he's about 4 years old, which is pretty young for a gecko. Geckos can live to be about 20 years old. Our last gecko, we had a gecko in the kids' room for a very long time, and she was 21 years old when we finally had to let her go. So geckos can live for a very, very long time. Let's see. He could grow up to 10 inches. So right now, you can see he's pretty long. He's sitting at about 8 inches right now, but he could get a little bit bigger. In the wild, if he were out living in the wild, geckos are found in the kind of highlands of Asia, so like Afghanistan, Pakistan, parts of India, and parts of Iran, because they like the desert. They like lots of hot weather. And as you can see with his coloring, in dirt and stuff, he would blend in really well to that kind of desert atmosphere. So that's why it's a good place for him to live. Let's see, does his tongue come out and he catch crickets? His tongue can come out, but he's pretty good at just chomping right down on them when he gets close to them. He's a very good hunter. The minute we put those crickets in there, he goes crazy. He doesn't necessarily run, but he can go pretty quickly. Our gecko, if you can kind of get a close look at his legs here, so geckos are really prone to a lot of like bone diseases and stuff, and so we have to give him a lot of vitamins to keep his bones healthy. So we give him a lot of calcium to keep those bones nice and strong, and you can see with him, he kind of scoots along on his arms. It looks like he's belly crawling. His stomach is really sensitive so that he can feel what terrain he's on as he's going really quickly. Let's see, what age did we get him? He was 2 years old when we got him in 2018, so he's now 4 years old. And he catches his crickets, he kind of just opens his mouth really wide and chomps right down on them. He goes pretty quickly, kind of scoots along and catches them. The mealworms are his favorite. He loves his mealworms, and we dust his mealworms with some calcium supplements to keep him nice and healthy, like you might take a vitamin at home, and he loves that. Like I said earlier, he has the Jacobson organ, which means that in his tongue, he can use his tongue to smell. So if you see him kind of feeling his way around, sticking his tongue around, he's trying to figure out where he's going. Let's see if he's calmed down enough. He's very young, and since he's very young, he's a little nervous about being out for long periods. So I've been taking him out and showing him, and then putting him away for a little bit. So let's see. If you look at the side of his head, you can see that he's got a little hole in the side of his head, and that is actually his ears. And his ears, they're one of the geckos. Leopard geckos are one of the few geckos that you can really see their ears. Most geckos have really deep internal ears, so you can't see them very well. Let's see what other questions. Does he swim? He does not swim. At least the water bowl we have for him is pretty shallow, so he can't swim. Ooh, where are you going? He really likes the warmth of my hand because since he is cold-blooded, he's excited to be on the warmth of my hand where he can stay warm. How long can his tail get? So his tail is just probably about 4 inches. It's full of fat. It's a food deposit, so when he eats a lot of fatty foods, he can store food and fat in there. So if he ever comes to a point where he's not getting a lot of food, he can take food from that and he'll use that energy instead. Okay, let's see. How do we give him his vitamins? So his vitamins are a powdery supplement. So it kind of looks like sugar, like powdered sugar. And yep, there you go. So his sugar, it's a white powder, and we dip his mealworms in it, his food in it, so that it gets all coated, like maybe like breaded chicken, kind of. That's what it looks like. And then he just eats it. He has no issues eating it all. He likes to eat it, I think. Let's see other questions. Does he have teeth? He does have teeth, and geckos actually their teeth regenerate. So you know how like for humans, our skin is constantly growing. Geckos are the same way. So they have a new set of teeth just about every 100 days. They're very tiny and just inside his mouth. Let's see, what else can I tell you? He does eat his crickets and mealworms. Those are his favorite things. We have live crickets and mealworms that he likes to eat. And what else do I have? I have all my notes down here to make sure I tell you everything. In captivity, he can live to about 20 years old. Our last gecko lived to about 21. So since he's 4, we will probably have him for a very, very long time. Where does he rest? That's a good question. So for him, he likes warm spaces. So we have a little coconut shell that he likes to go and hide in. And then we also have, I brought it out so that people could see it. This is what we call his molting dish. So it's a enclosed kind of space, and inside we have moss and rocks and some water because he needs to have a place where he can drink some water if he'd like to, but a place that's also kind of cool. So in his tank, half of it has a heat source, so it's nice and toasty warm for him, but the other half does not have a heat source, so he can maintain his own body heat depending on how cold he is. He does molt. So probably about once a month, he turns an ashy white and he sheds his skin because he's still growing. So when he is molting, he likes to go in this molting dish. It's a nice cozy spot for him, and he curls up and molts, and it's a safe space for him. Geckos are pretty good climbers. Most species of gecko actually have little sticky pads on their toes so they can climb up almost any kind of surface with that. Leopard geckos do not have that kind of sticky things on the pads of their feet, so they can't climb up those kinds of surfaces. But he does have claws. You can see on his little feet he's got very sharp little claws. So he uses those to climb up other kinds of rocks and stuff, but he just doesn't stick to them. Yeah, hi. He's very aware of what's going on around him. He's always looking at people. If you've come to visit us at the Science Center, he's a very good hider. He likes to hide behind rocks and stuff, but his favorite is definitely his little coconut. When did we get him? So we got him in March of 2018. So we've had him for about 2 years, so we think he's about 4 years old. Yes, you are. Yep. He's very nervous about being out today. Since he's so young, he's not used to being handled as much as our other animals, which is why I have him in this container, because it's safer that I take him out a little bit and then put him in so that he stays nice and safe and doesn't hurt himself. Let's see, does anybody else have any questions about Charlie? Like I said, he's called a spotted leopard gecko because if you look really closely at him, he is yellow with these black markings on him, which is very similar to what a gecko or what a leopard might look like. Yeah, hi. He's very curious about what's going around. I actually woke him up. Leopard geckos are nocturnal. Does anybody know what nocturnal means? That's a really big word. Nocturnal means that they are asleep during the day and awake at night. So humans are not nocturnal unless maybe you have a night job. But we usually sleep at night and wake up during the day. But for him, he sleeps during the day and saves up all his energy and gets all this heat, body heat, so that he can go hunting at night when he's awake. How old is he? He is 2 years old, or he's 4 years old. We've had him for 2 years. He is 4 years old. I'll pull him out again. So his tail, like I said earlier, is kind of shaped like his head. And that's so if a predator were to attack him, he hopes that that predator would mistake his tail for his head, and he can actually lose his tail. His tail can either be pulled off or he can make the decision to drop his tail and he can regrow a new tail. He has not had to regrow a tail. This is the one he came with, which is good for us because it's nice and healthy. It is a fatty deposit space, so it's really nice and soft and squishy. So when he eats food, he can store that energy in his tail. Let's see, is he related to crocodiles? I don't believe he's related to crocodiles, no. And yeah, it does grow back the same color. People say that it's not as nice. The second, like the new one that they grow is not as nice as their original one. Our last gecko, Camilla, she had lost her tail at one point, and it looked pretty similar. And what do the raised bumps on his skin do? Well, he's pretty rough, and I think it's mostly so he can kind of blend into the terrain. He kind of likes, he's arching into me, petting him. He likes that feeling of my warm hand. And a lot, I think the rough skin, it protects him too. So if he runs into like a thorny bush or something, his skin can hold up to it. Does he have any pals? He does not have any pals. He is our lone gecko. So geckos, you can have up to about 3 of them in one habitat together, but they recommend you only have 1 male per habitat, just because the males can get kind of territorial. So he's very happy to be our only gecko. He's pretty shy, as you can see. He's a little nervous. He's kind of young, so he's slowly getting used to life at the Science Center. Okay, come on. Oh. He really likes the warmth of my skin, so he's climbing up my arm. Our other leopard gecko, Camilla, when we still had her, she would crawl up your arm and stick her head in your shirt and fall asleep because she just loved the warmth of people's arms. Okay, let's see. What other questions do we have here? So if we had other female geckos, he would probably do really well with other female geckos, but not with other male geckos. What are his predators? So I'm not sure what his immediate predators would be. He is native in areas of in the desert, so there might be other bigger lizards that could eat him, or some snakes, probably some birds that might try to eat him. And how does he move? You can see he crawls on his belly, kind of. He's really low to the ground because his stomach is very sensitive, and he uses that stomach to kind of feel where he is. Where is it warm? Where is it soft? And that kind of stuff. When he went to you, did he come with his family? No, that is a good question, though. But he came just with himself. It was just him. There was another family who had had him for a long time, and they had loved him, and then decided that he needed a new home. And so he came to live with us for a while, and he's been with us now for 2 years. Yeah, hi. He's very curious about me. He keeps looking at me like, can I go home now? Um, I brought this out earlier, but this is his molting dish. So in his tank, he has a molting dish. He has a big water bowl that he sometimes drinks out of. And he has another coconut. It's just a hollowed, upside-down coconut with an entry that he likes to go curl up in there for naps during the day. Let's see. If nobody else has any other questions, Charlie and I are probably going to turn in. He is going to get fed this evening, so he's going to have a nice time eating. We feed him twice a week. He gets crickets and mealworms twice a week. Because he's so small, he doesn't really need to eat any more than that and is happy eating just that amount. So if nobody has any other questions, oh, let's see, where in the world do they live naturally? So they live in the highlands of like southern Asia, so in Afghanistan, parts of Pakistan, parts of India, parts of Iran, which are desert areas. So with the color of his skin, you can see that kind of yellowy, he blends in really well to the desert. Is he playful? I think he's pretty playful for a gecko. He likes to run around in his tank. He likes to climb. We have some rock areas that he likes to climb. Since he's nocturnal and he's awake most of the time at night, we don't get to see a lot of what he does because there's nobody there at night. So we're assuming that he probably has a good time romping around his tank at night. So we're going to go for now. The Science Center, we are so excited to be a resource during this time. But we still need your support. So if you would like to visit our website and find out other ways that you can support the Science Center, we would greatly appreciate it. But for now, Charlie and I are going to say goodbye, and we will see you next week with another Animal Encounters. Yeah, bye!